welcome to another Into the Void Real review. This time we're reviewing Heretic, the Hugh Grant horror thriller from A24. Before we get started, if you're sensitive to talk of religion and the validity of it within the construct of our society, then you might not want to watch this video, or if you don't want any spoilers, that's another reason to avoid watching this video. Although I think my review will be relatively light on the spoiler side. With that out of the way, be prepared for a fascinating lecture about religion and whether it's worth believing in or disbelieving in it. Does faith have its place in today's society? Hugh Grant's character from Heretic, Mr. Reed, asked if you want to leave his house, you can pick the belief door or the disbelief door. This movie starts with two Mormon Latter-day Saints missionaries, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, who travel to the home of Mr. Reed, played devilishly by Hugh Grant. They try to convert him to Mormonism, but little do they know that the tables will get turned on them, and they will be the ones that will be convinced that their beliefs are flawed. When invited into his home, they asked that his wife be part of the proceedings as per protocol when participating in these kinds of meetings. Hugh Grant, playing the ever-gracious and polite host, assures the two that his wife will join them with blueberry pie. Hugh Grant does such a great job of getting us as viewers to believe that he is a morally inquisitive man who is open to all things religion. What follows is an ever-tightening of tension as the sisters realize that Mr. Reed is a strange man with secrets built within and below his house, like walls with metal to block out cell phone reception, doors with timed locks, and a library/church-like room that has two doors leading to a dungeon below the house. And that's not all you will learn. Several more secrets are unveiled before the end of the movie, and having no wife is the least of it. But I think what's the most fascinating thing about this movie is that the dialogue is really good. The way that Hugh Grant embodies Mr. Reed's dissection of religions to their one signature component, control. Control of society, thereby tearing down the sisters' missionaries' belief of Mormonism in the process. Control is the essence of it all in the end, according to him. He uses fast food, music, and oddly enough, Monopoly to drive home the point that religion is iterative in nature, thereby diluting the original message over centuries of time. How can we believe something that's a copy of a copy of a copy? Oh, and nobody talks about Taco Bell. You'll know what this means when you watch the movie. Trust me. Religious talk has never been as fascinating as the way it's presented in the opening moments of Heretic. The missionaries of Barnes and Paxton, played by Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, counter him admirably by questioning the validity of the Christ-like subjects he says are all similar to a fault. After all, at one point, Sister Barnes comments that one Egyptian god has a head of a bird, for God's sake. How is that a valid subject when compared to Christ? Meanwhile, Sister Paxton proclaims that they must challenge him intellectually instead of physically. The argument being that they have a much better chance of winning that way. But between you and me, I think the sisters can take a senior Hugh Grant. Can they not? An interesting side note about the actors that play the sisters. Apparently they were both former Mormons at one time, so they know the religion very well, which adds an extra sensibility to the film. Going back to the movie though, the strongest parts are when Hugh Grant's character is explaining the flimsiness of religions throughout the ages while doing so in a deliberate and surgical way. You can see his points and almost nod your head in agreement. If he didn't have all the other shadiness attached to his persona, you might actually side with him. It's a superior performance from Hugh Grant, who, as we all know, is usually relegated to the rom-coms of the world. And it would not work so well without the great performances from Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, who challenge him at times while terrified for their lives. The chemistry between the sisters is excellent, with Barnes being the tougher one compared to the meeker and more understated Paxton. I liked how Chloe East was able to portray Paxton so brilliantly as this not-so-sure young woman still navigating her faith as a Mormon. Likewise, I liked Sophie Thatcher's portrayal as a more confident Barnes as this young woman who clearly has some emotional baggage that lingers from the death of her father. Both sisters have a great opening scene discussing pornos and Magnum condoms and how everything's marketed to us not so unlike the way religion is. It lends an investment to these characters that wouldn't be there if they were just caricatures of what everyone thinks is the norm whenever diving into what being a Mormon woman is all about. Heretic is strongest in the beginning until the layers start getting pulled back and we start learning the inner intricacies of what is going on behind the scenes below Mr. Reed's house. I don't want to go into too much detail on what transpires once the curtain gets pulled back. I'll let you experience that for yourself because your mileage may vary on that part of the movie. For me, it bordered on more of what we have come to expect from horror movies, and it's not as fresh in my mind when it comes to cinema. The back half of the movie is definitely a lot more messy, and it's not as tightly scripted as the beginning. I question a lot on what was real and what was not, to be sure. The bottom line is that the second half of the film is a demonstration of Mr. Reed's idea that religion is ultimately control. His dungeon is an outward reflection of that. There's a brilliant shot of Sister Paxton running through the model of a maze from a bird's eye point of view that is clearly played for artistic merit and nothing else. But it really lets loose the idea that the sisters are really playing in the world that Mr. Reed made. This movie does call for a second viewing to clear things up that might be lost on a first viewing, and I can appreciate that. It sparks a great debate about what religion means to all of us. The first half strong with a great setup punctuated by great performances from three main actors that devolves into a vague, weaker second half in which things happen that are not convincing and kind of kill the illusion of what was built before. This unfortunately brings the film down a notch, but it's still worth experiencing for the great dialogue and performances that will have you thinking after leaving the theater. I'm giving Heretic a 7 out of 10. Guys, what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe if you want more of this content. I will see you the next time when we venture into the void.